In the world of WWE, not every hit is part of the act. When someone crosses the line, whether by accident or on purpose, a receipt is usually on the way. It's not just a way for wrestlers to remind each other of the boundaries, but sometimes, it's a cold warning delivered right in the middle of the ring. From steel chair shots to blows that land like a sledgehammer, these are 10 of the most infamous receipt moments in WWE history, where actions truly spoke louder than words. And now, let's kick things off with the first one. The Undertaker, when a steel chair sends a message. In WWE, if there's anyone who knew how to send a message with a chair, it was The Undertaker. And if you ever hurt the dead man, on purpose or not, you'd better be ready for a real receipt, made of metal. It all started at SummerSlam 1997. Acting as the special guest referee, Shawn Michaels accidentally hit Taker in the head with a steel chair during a chaotic end to the match. The hit forced him to award the win to Bret Hart, an outcome that sent his relationship with Taker into serious tension. Afterward, Shawn realized the chair shot had been too stiff, and he knew it was only a matter of time before Taker got him back. That moment came soon enough, in their legendary Hell in a Cell match. At the end of the bout, Taker delivered a brutal, dead-on chair shot that left Michaels visibly dazed in the ring. But the chair stories didn't end there. In 2005, during a match, Randy Orton accidentally scraped the edge of a steel chair across Taker's head, causing a nasty gash. Backstage, Taker said only one thing: receipt is coming. Sure enough, at Armageddon 2005, Taker swung a steel chair at Orton's head with absolutely no restraint. It was the brutal payoff for that unpaid debt. Another incident involved Shane McMahon, who accidentally busted Taker open by smashing an LED monitor into him during an episode of Raw in the lead-up to WrestleMania. Taker didn't say much, just a quiet promise that he'd pay it back later. WrestleMania 32 was that payday. Taker used an external monitor at ringside to strike Shane directly, a chilling and symbolic response. For The Undertaker, the steel chair wasn't just a weapon, it was his way of maintaining order in WWE's chaotic world. Brock Lesnar, when The Beast collected his own receipt. Brock Lesnar has never been the type to play nice when he feels disrespected. Not only is he a physical powerhouse, but he's also not afraid to strike back hard when someone crosses the line. One of the most iconic receipt moments involving Lesnar took place at Royal Rumble 2018. In the heat of the match, Braun Strowman, with his tank-like strength, accidentally drove a knee way too hard into Lesnar's face. Without missing a beat, the Beast fired back with a vicious right hook straight to Braun's temple, staggering the big man. Along with the punch came a loud warning. There was no mistaking the message: don't get reckless with Brock Lesnar. But that wasn't the only time Brock taught someone a lesson in the ring. At WrestleMania 31, Lesnar went head-to-head with Roman Reigns in a high-stakes showdown. During their exchange, Roman landed a few stiff knees to Brock's body, maybe from adrenaline, or maybe just a little too careless. But to Lesnar, there's no such thing as an accident in the ring. He answered with a thunderous slap right across Roman's face. No hesitation, no holding back, even in front of millions watching around the world. To finish the warning, Lesnar grabbed Reigns and blasted him with a clothesline so brutal it launched the big dog out of the ring. No mic, no promo, just pure action. That's how Brock Lesnar delivers a message. Don't mess with the Beast incarnate. Big Show, when a slap was loud enough for the whole world to hear. From one giant to another, WWE once witnessed a painful receipt between Big Show and Kofi Kingston back in 2009. It all started during a televised match between the two. Known for his high-energy, daring style, Kofi launched into a fast-spinning kick that connected flush with Big Show's jaw. Despite trying to stay professional, it was clear Big Show wasn't happy. For a veteran and someone of his massive stature, getting hit like that, especially by a much smaller opponent, felt like a slap in the face, right in his own domain. And when the time was right, Big Show made sure to respond. Near the end of the match, right on top of the commentary table, he unleashed a massive open-handed slap to Kofi's chest. The sound echoed through the entire arena like a thunderclap, and it probably felt just as explosive on Kofi's ribs. Years later, when asked about that match, Kofi jokingly said that slap was the reason his chest looked caved in. A funny comment, but one that speaks volumes about just how unforgettable Big Show's receipt really was. In WWE, A slap can be more than just a hit. It can be a warning shot from a giant who once ruled the ring. Booker T, when Stone Cold ran out of patience. During an appearance with Steve Austin, Booker T openly recalled a moment he himself described as well-deserved. The two laughed about it in hindsight, but behind the humor was a sharp lesson in what a receipt really means in pro wrestling. In a heated match between the two former world champions, Booker accidentally threw a strike a little too stiff, landing it squarely on Steve Austin's face. It wasn't the usual worked hit, it was too real, and Austin felt it. Normally known for his calm and patience in these situations, Austin didn't wait until they got backstage, or even a few minutes later. Right then and there, the Texas Rattlesnake fired back with a clean, quick, and perfectly placed kick straight to Booker T's face. It wasn't about winning the match, it was a clear message. That's the line. Don't cross it. Booker later laughed while retelling the story, saying the kick was 100% deserved, because deep down, he knew he'd messed up. As for Steve, he didn't need to say a word. The timing of his action spoke loud enough. In WWE, some of the hardest lessons don't come from a promo, they come from the boot of an angry rattlesnake. Ken Shamrock, when the pain came from both sides. In 1997, Ken Shamrock made the leap from MMA to WWE, and it didn't take long for him to build a reputation. Backed by real-world fighting experience, Ken brought a hard-hitting, aggressive style that stood out from the more controlled, performance-driven rhythm of traditional pro wrestling. One of his earliest opponents was Vader, a brutal, no-nonsense powerhouse who'd been through plenty of wars. But at In Your House, A Cold Day in Hell, Shamrock went a little too far. Instead of adapting to WWE's pace, he charged at Vader with a barrage of wild punches and stiff kicks, blows that looked rough on camera and felt even worse in real life. At one point, Vader was seen outside the ring yelling at Ken to lighten up. But whether from adrenaline or unfamiliarity with WWE's backstage etiquette, Shamrock didn't stop. In fact, he went as far as launching himself into a move that accidentally broke Vader's nose. And then came the receipt. Vader didn't talk. He waited for the right moment and then blasted Shamrock with a massive elbow to the ear, dropping him hard to the mat. No words needed. Anyone watching knew exactly what it meant. Message delivered. Later on the Kurt Angle podcast, Ken denied that the elbow was a receipt. But the truth, maybe only the people in that ring really know. Perry Saturn, when losing control led to a shocking receipt. One of the most controversial and unsettling receipt moments in WWE history took place in May 2001, during a taping of WWF Metal. Perry Saturn, a seasoned veteran, was booked in a squash match against Mike Bell, an enhancement talent typically brought in to make others look good. But this match took a disturbing turn. During the bout, Mike Bell made two critical mistakes, botched moves that dropped Saturn hard on his head. Feeling his safety was at risk, Saturn snapped. What was supposed to be a routine match turned into a real fight. He launched into a flurry of legitimate punches, slams, and even threw Bell out of the ring, all fueled by pure anger and zero restraint. Backstage, Vince McMahon immediately pulled Saturn aside and asked bluntly, "What the hell happened out there?" Saturn didn't deny it. He admitted he overreacted out of fear of injury, and he personally checked on Mike Bell right after the match to make sure he was okay. Though no formal punishment was announced, many believe Saturn's bizarre mop gimmick that followed shortly afterward was a kind of corporate receipt, the company's subtle way of holding him accountable. Sometimes, a receipt isn't just a hit in the ring, it's the company's way of reminding you that every action has a price. Diesel, when Big Daddy Cool ran out of patience. If Perry Saturn once lost control in the ring, then Kevin Nash, aka Diesel, chose a more old-school, cold-blooded way to handle things. At Royal Rumble 1994, Diesel had a brief but unforgettable encounter with Virgil, one that the latter likely still remembers. According to Diesel's later accounts, the plan was simple. Virgil would enter the ring, take a few bumps, and be quickly eliminated so the match could move forward. But Virgil had other ideas. He tried to stay in longer and ignored Diesel's cues to wrap things up. Then, out of nowhere, he threw a legit punch to Diesel's face. No pull, no acting, just a real shot. That was the breaking point. Big Daddy Cool immediately retaliated with a series of brutal elbow strikes, the kind you don't want to take from a 7-footer. And after the message was delivered loud and clear, Diesel grabbed Virgil and tossed him out of the ring like dead weight. No words, no post-match meeting. In just a few seconds, Diesel made it very clear. If you don't follow the script, be ready for a real ending. JBL, when the bully paid the price in the ring. ECW One Night Stand 2005 was infamous for its chaotic atmosphere, intense energy, and emotional outbursts. But behind the wild brawl that closed the show was a classic receipt story, and at the center of it all was JBL. Amid the ringside chaos, John Bradshaw, Layfield suddenly turned his attention to Blue Meanie and launched a real, unprovoked assault. These weren't worked punches or coordinated spots. These were legit, stiff shots, thrown in rapid succession with full force. Mina's face was left bloodied in the middle of the melee. The reason? Years earlier, Blue Meanie had publicly accused JBL of being a backstage bully. For someone with an ego like Bradshaw's, that wasn't something easily forgotten. And when the opportunity arose in the middle of a chaotic brawl, he took it, right in front of a live crowd. But the story didn't end there. A few months later, in a surprising twist, Blue Meanie was booked in an official match against JBL, and this time, he had backup. As the match reached its peak, Stevie Richards, a member of Mina's BWO faction, stormed in and smashed JBL in the head with a brutal steel chair shot, delivered with all the frustration and fury that had been building since the ECW incident. The crowd was stunned. This wasn't part of a script, this was a real receipt. With that thunderous chair shot and a little help from Batista, Blue Meanie pinned the man who once made him bleed. It wasn't just a win on the scorecard, it was a victory for dignity, reclaimed in the same ring where it was once taken. Shane McMahon, when a feather punch became a warning shot. Shane McMahon has long been known for his unpredictable, daredevil style in the ring. Despite not being a trained pro wrestler, he's always willing to throw himself into the action. But if there's one thing fans and wrestlers alike have noticed, it's that Shane's punches, while fast and flashy, often miss their mark, or barely connect at all. However, when the adrenaline's pumping, Shane sometimes loses control. His strikes become less theatrical and accidentally more accurate, which can be a problem. A perfect example: Survivor Series 2016. During the match, Shane suddenly landed a punch square to Chris Jericho's face. On TV, it looked sloppy, soft, and almost harmless, but in reality, it landed flush on Jericho's nose, and it was enough to make Y2J visibly annoyed. Jericho's reaction told the whole story. He rolled out of the ring, stormed toward the steel steps, and kicked them with real force, not as part of the act, but out of genuine frustration. That was his way of letting out the anger from taking a hit that never should have happened. When he returned to the ring, Shane seemed rattled. His movements became more erratic, almost as if he realized he'd crossed a line. There was no open receipt, no obvious payback, but Jericho's eyes said it all. Shane had unknowingly gone a step too far, a line most others knew not to cross. And in the world of wrestling, landing a stiff shot on someone like Jericho? Never a smart move. Daniel Pewer, when a rookie learned a brutal lesson. Wrapping up the list is a truly unforgettable moment from Royal Rumble 2005, featuring none other than Daniel Pewer, the winner of Tough Enough 2004. Despite being new to WWE, Pewer quickly drew attention backstage, but not in a good way. One of his earliest and most controversial moments came when he was invited to face Kurt Angle in an impromptu amateur wrestling match on SmackDown. Angle, an Olympic gold medalist and former WWE champion, wasn't expecting Pewer, with his MMA background, to actually try to legitimately submit him. But within seconds, Pewer locked Kurt in a dangerous armbar that had serious potential to injure. Fortunately, referee Jimmy Corderas acted fast, counting a quick pin and ending the moment with a fake finish. Otherwise, Angle could have walked away seriously hurt. But that move wasn't forgotten. At the following year's Royal Rumble, Pewer entered the ring to find himself face-to-face with three veterans: Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, and Hardcore Holly. What happened next wasn't for the faint of heart. All three took turns unloading stiff, punishing shots to his chest, back, and even head. These weren't the usual worked punches. These were real hits, delivered with intensity and intent, right in front of a worldwide audience. Pewer was beaten down until there was nothing left of the confidence he walked in with. Then, humiliated, he was thrown over the top rope and eliminated. It wasn't just a rough start to his WWE career, It was one of the most public, cold, and brutal receipts in Royal Rumble history. These were the receipts that were never part of the script, but no one ever forgets them. In WWE, you can win or lose. But if you cross the line, you'd better be ready to take it back and feel the pain.